What's up, guys, and welcome back to Retcon Air, the Plotline Repair Podcast. Like the name suggests, this is a podcast that takes a look at books, movies, video games, and even Broadway shows. Pretty much anything else that has a storyline. What we do is we break down who wrote the story, how it was received by the community, and how it impacted us. We also walk through the main moments of each story, and of course wrap up by adding what we might do differently if we had the chance to repair a piece of the plotline that doesn't quite jive with us. Now we know that's a hell of a lot of ground to cover, so in the show notes you'll find a table of contents with the time codes to serve as a guide to each episode of Retcon Air. Sure, we'll cover comments and criticisms, and even offer our own ideas of what we would do to repair the plotline a little bit of each of these stories, but myself and all the other people that you're here on this show, we do so because we love these pieces of work and getting the chance to talk about them. So if that sounds good to you, stick around as we break down Marvel's Spider-Man. Today, I am proud to welcome back my best buddy. You know him, you love him. Bryar, welcome back to the show.
Hey man, thanks for having me back again. Good to be back, doing this remote recording.
Yeah, I for sure do miss hanging out with you in real life, doing these with you again in real life, but I'm super stoked to do the episode again with you anyway, just because I've been doing a lot of Let's Plays and marketing and all this other promotional crap, and you and Shelby
have been on it.
But you guys have been awesome about doing your own standalone recording. So there's a couple episodes now of BioShock and Underworld that are just Bryar and Shelby that you guys definitely should check out if you haven't already. They're awesome episodes. They really, really are. But for me, it's just really nice to be able to come back and do a proper episode. The reaction videos are great, the Let's Plays are great, but this is the reason that we started the podcast, because I like talking about these stories. So it's good to get back in the saddle.
I think it's been at least a full month since you and I have actually recorded an episode together.
It's been too long, Bryar. It's been way too long.
It really has. I mean, we're starting to look into the whole possibly doing in-person recordings. I'm excited for that.
It'll be good for us to get back together, but then also be some new challenges of getting our mics squared away, because you might notice that Bryar's audio sounds incredible. Do we want to do a shout out to where this came from, or how do you want to do that?
Yeah, my mom was pretty cool, stepped in and said, "Hey man, I want to buy you guys a mic." And I said, "Thanks, Mom." And she did. She
reached out to me first, and she was like, "I want to do something as a surprise. Do you think I should tell him?" I'm like, "Yeah, you should absolutely tell him, because I'm definitely going to tell him if you don't tell him." But I think that they would really appreciate that. I think it's a really cool gesture, and it's awesome that she wanted to support the show. So they sound incredible, but they're expensive. So we started out with one on the setting for two people, and now we each have our own. So I'm excited. So I think the tools that we use are industry standard. We got to just make sure that the content that we make is something that's good and worth listening to, and enough of something for people to come back and listen to more. So we got these mics, let's use them.
And all that to say, thanks, Mom.
Thanks, Bryar's mom. All right, so why don't we start off with our new segment called the Armory. I think I wrote this and then I took a month off, so it's good to get back to talk about what we've been playing, watching, and reading. So Bryar, what have you been up to recently?
Playing. I've been doing a lot of Overwatch still. You and I tend to rage on Overwatch with our friend Kelsey, so we do that. I've been in and out of the Final Fantasy VII remake. I keep diving into it and then getting really into it, and then something draws my attention away. It's just a constant coming back to dive into it again. Doing this episode made me get back into Spider-Man, so I've been playing that a lot. I already 100%ed in Platinum the main game. Now I'm trying to do it for all the DLC as well, so that's going to take a minute. And then the thing I'm most excited about is I made a purchase and got 4 books, collections of various stories for all the Dark Knight's Metal story. It's solid. It's dark. It's intense. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm excited for. What about you?
Well, I mean, it sounds like you've got a lot of reading to do, so I'm sure you're looking forward to that. So enjoy. For myself, I was really trying to finish Final Fantasy VII Remake before The Last of Us 2 came out, and I just didn't get there. And so I'd gotten to chapter 18, I think I'm on chapter 8. I think I'm on the last chapter of the game.
Yeah, I think it's only 18.
And then Last of Us 2 just came out. So, it was one of those things, and this has happened a couple of times, where if you were really into a story, you have to get the game at launch, and you have to play it for at least, into whatever moment would have been spoiled if you didn't get there. And I'm so grateful that I bought the game and I did that, because the first night that I played it, like I told you and I told Kelsey, I've kind of talked to a lot of people about that. There's a part that happens pretty early on in the game that's honestly the most painful gaming experience that I've ever had in my entire life of gaming. And the only reason I got there is because of my connection to the original story and how that kind of unfolds in the sequel. It's amazing. And so there's a lot of crazy shit out there right now about like reviews and like reactions and all this other crap, and like honestly I'm not listening to any of it. I'm not interested in any of it whatsoever. I have a very personal connection to the original The Last of Us that I'll talk about at a different time, but they do such a phenomenal job of taking that stuff and injecting it into this the sequel in a very powerful, incredible way. I think
Right
I think I've got to almost be through it. I've got to be near the end of it, just because I've been just putting so much time into it just to kind of get through it. If you haven't picked it up yet, you definitely should if you're listening at home. But yeah, other than that, I kind of have been jumping into Overwatch with you guys a little bit when I can. We've kind of played like Call of Duty World War II, Battlefront 2, like Sony's been just giving away like some free games that we've been playing with our friends and stuff. We played like what is it, Warzone, Call of Duty. We've been playing that a little bit.
I was surprised how much I actually liked Warzone, considering how much I just don't like Fortnite, and it's basically just a less cartoony version of it.
Well, and that's
there's
the thing.
No building in it.
Exactly. There's no building, and the style is more my speed, and like even like the game content's more my speed. I just think Fortnite just doesn't appeal to me. I just don't like the way it looks. I don't like the way it plays, and I think that's an okay thing. I'm so excited that a lot of people are getting so much value out of it, but I just don't. Then Warzone came on, and I just really like the way that it was made. So it's fun to play. It's pretty quick. We play with a couple of friends of ours, David and Joel and Michael and stuff like that. So it's awesome. I mean, if you're into shooters, you should try it out. And then other than that, as far as gaming related news and content, I just did a reaction video for the Marvel's Avengers War Table event that happened on June 24th. So depending on when this episode airs, if you're interested in that, we knocked out an entire kind of like response to the entire thing. So I'm really excited about that game, more so than I was before. I've kind of reached out to the like Casey Lynch at Crystal Dynamics, and I've asked him some stuff, and I kind of reached out to Square Enix and just asked openly, hey, if there's anything that we can, do with you guys for like interviews or to talk about like what you're working on, if there's any like, early beta stuff you want me to try out. Like, yeah, we're a very low visibility podcast, but I'm not going to not ask from one professional to another.
Hey, man, is there anything I can test for you?
Yeah, literally any way I can get this game early. I don't care if I do promo stuff for you guys. I would be happy to like lead interviews for you guys and edit them out. Like I have that entire skill set to help promote literally any project. I just really want them to let me in and start doing stuff for them, like more than they realize. So I can't wait for the beta. It's gonna be awesome. I hope we get to play together. So
I will say, after watching that video, I was never not excited for this game, but I was nowhere near as excited as you were, just because, I don't know, it's a pretty big undertaking. I was very apprehensive about it. But after watching a little bit of that video, I can honestly say I'm actually getting like legit excited for it. It does seem pretty cool.
I agree. And just the way that the buffs work and the co-op is working, and they haven't done a deep enough dive into exactly how it works, like how your skill set meets with my skill set or wherever else. But it's got to be the main reason for you to keep playing the game. They're like, this is a gaming experience that's going to span years and years, and that's not just a single player story. So they've got to come correct with how it works when we're playing together. So
I already know how you and I playing together is going to go. It's the same way we play Overwatch, where I'm stuck just constantly healing and or buffing you in any way, shape, or form I can, trying to keep you alive while you just run head first into everything.
Now, by that, do you mean you're going to be healing and buffing other people far away from me, and I'm going to be on my own as per usual, dying constantly?
Look, it's not my fault that you ran off from the entirety of the team time and time again. After Kelsey and I constantly tell you to quit running into the team, together? We're back here.
Until somebody says assemble, I'm going to be doing my solos, my dolo solos. And then like one last thing, like I really hope that we're able to create our own superhero in this universe. Yeah, like it'll be cool to play like, with Captain America, with the Hulk, with, Kamala and all the other stuff. That'll be awesome just to see. But I want to be able to customize my own character, either like tech-based or, meta human ability flying and, bendy and stuff based. Like I hope they give us that option. I think that stuff. Yeah, like, I don't know what you call like the Fantastic Four, their skill set, like what they are versus, like the Scarlet Witch and stuff like that. So I don't know how you get to pick
one's
it or whatever.
One's a real-life Stretch Armstrong.
For sure. And I want to be able to have that as an option for my own character build. So we'll see. Anyway.
Right on, man.
All right, so enough about us. Let's talk about this incredible story. And let's head to the writer's room first. Bryar, why don't you take it away?
All right, so writer's room is where we touch on who wrote and contributed to the story we're about to break down. For Spider-Man, there are 3 writers contributed to the plot. Jon Paquette? I think it's Paquette.
Because it'd be like Arquette, so maybe Paquette.
Yeah, so Jon Paquette is how I'm going to say
John, as is tradition also on this show, we're sorry for butchering your last name. We butcher the majority of the names that we have. Honestly, we should stop doing last names, but we're trying to give you, kudos on what you did.
How many Johns are there in the world, You gotta
and
give him the last
Jon,
name.
which I like that. He ditched the H. That's rare, and
It's
I like
dead
it. I'm
weight.
here for it.
You don't need it.
Anyway.
It's silent anyways.
So Jon and
Jon Paquette, Benjamin Arfmann, and Kelsey Bachman. Bacham?
or Beachum.
Beachum's good. Let's go with Beachum. I don't know why I was saying Bacham. Kelsey Beachum.
Okay. So Jon was the lead writer on Spider-Man, Sunset Overdrive, Medal of Honor, and Resistance 3.
Benjamin Arfmann helped write Spider-Man, but also worked on Dead or Alive, the TV series, and a handful of other stories, Random Stop, Bloom Kampf, and What It Is.
And then Kelsey Beachum, she wrote Outer Wilds for The Onion, which is awesome, and of course on Spider-Man.
The game was developed by Insomniac Games, who previously worked on Spyro, Ratchet & Clank, awesome series, Resistance, and Sunset Overdrive.
And so did it surprise you to find out that the team that knocked out Sunset Overdrive were working on a Spider-Man game? Because I remember working at the stop and seeing all of the gameplay for Sunset Overdrive, and a lot of this was like very frantic movement and like big city like skylines and stuff like that. So to me, like it really made sense from like a mobility and like art design standpoint. What did you think?
It did legit surprise me just based off Soul. Okay, so a while back, Xbox gave away Sunset Overdrive for free. So I've played most of that entire game. And it's fun. It's very fast paced. It is borderline ridiculous. It is very intense in your face, just constantly moving, constantly shooting. And like it's a fun game. Like I did enjoy it a lot, but it's just so different from Spider-Man that it was surprising to me to see that this company, has the range to do both,
Which is cool though.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I do see where probably like a lot of like the movement mechanics in Sunset Overdrive probably did help them in Spider-Man, because like there are some minor similarities there. Like the base of it is pretty similar. Obviously, the execution is vastly different. But,
for sure.
Like I said, it was cool to see a team being able to have the range to do these two totally different games.
Yeah, absolutely. And so the game was published by Sony as a Sony exclusive, which I'm sure pissed off a ton of Xbox fans. So I'm patiently waiting for an Xbox exclusive like Punisher game or Blade game, like something that I would really care about just to get back at us. And like honestly, if they did that, I wouldn't even I would be mad, but like I would totally get it.
Just to be clear, I would buy either and or both of them and constantly send you pictures and screenshots of the gameplay just so you know what you're missing.
What I'm hoping now that I have like a better like PC rig is that like if something does only come out to like Xbox or whatever,
I'll
be able to get it on my PC or something in some fashion so I can just taste it. Maybe not like on the quality it would be if I had it on console, but just one little tiny Joe Biden taste.
Well, Microsoft's doing that. I can't remember the name of the service, but it's some platform basically where you can get Xbox games on your PC through it, similar to like PlayStation Now.
Oh, is that like the smart delivery thing, or are you talking about something else?
It's like, Christ, I cannot remember the name of it. I mean, Cam doesn't listen to us, but if he did and he was listening to us right now, he would honestly just out loud say the name of this service, because he has it. It's a monthly subscription, and you get access to all these Xbox games. So yeah, you could absolutely play it all on your PC. And because it's on PC, you'd be able to really kind of fine-tune a lot of different stuff. So honestly, it'd probably look visually better than on your console.
Right on. And I'd be down for that. And like legit, the only reason I would consider it would be if there was a game that I like was dying to play that I would totally have bought if it was on my console and it was only an exclusive. So I do like that I have that option now, but we'll see. So, and since this is a video game, we need to take some moments to talk about game design and performance as well. And I've kind of broken these down into a few categories: combat, movement, sidekicks. Start with the combat design. So for this, like for combat, I guess it's kind of free flow and gadgets based. I thought the Spider-Man combat system was surprisingly deep. You could upgrade all your gadgets. You can unlock a ton of different powers as you went. And the combination of combat moves, and the tech, it was very seamless, I thought. It took me a little bit of time to kind of get the flow down of what especially with like bigger and more complicated enemies and like the more complicated versions of like your tech. It took me a while to really kind of get it all down and figure out how to juggle. But once I did, I was blown away. Like, what did you think about the combat and the gadgets and how they handled?
I loved it. It was like, for instance, just like the hand-to-hand combat, like the moves Spider-Man and everything did, made sense. It's stuff you would see. I could believe Spider-Man doing, because like I know when we did the Batman Arkham Knight game, one of my biggest problems with free flow combat there was like him lunging 30 feet.
Oh yeah, he just fly across. Yeah. That's right. I remember that.
I 100% believe Spider-Man could do that, you know? So like that made a lot more sense to me, and it flowed better. It looked great. I loved it. The gadgets, like I loved all the combos you can do with the gadgets too. Like one of them is the web bomb. So I'd throw a web bomb into a group of people, and then there's that pulse blast that sends them flying. So they're all webbed now from the bomb, and then you send them flying at a wall, and it just webs everyone to a wall now. So now I've taken out half the people have to fight. I didn't even have to touch them.
You know how there were those segments where you had to like go into a store? Like the view was weird. Like it was almost like an old school arcadey combat thing where you wouldn't be like in your normal three-dimensional world. You just be like in a store as it was being robbed. Like, do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So those were my favorite places to like, I'd go in and I just chuck a bomb in there and then I just blast everybody. And I like in maybe 2 seconds, you can do that entire segment and move on. So it was just the view of it was just a pain. I just didn't like that as much.
I hated it so much.
But the gear made it manageable, so I like that a lot.
Yeah, it was solid. Like I said, I loved the actual flow of it. Everything worked out great. The gadgets helped without, like the gadgets were cool and they helped without taking away from Spider-Man kicking ass. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so next, the Freeflow parkour acrobatics and the web slinging through the world. The thing that would have killed this game was the navigation. You don't come at people with a Spider-Man game and not have your web swinging dialed in like perfectly. It really was. Plus all the flips and stuff that you could do as you were swinging. You know, it was like a spider roll and a dragon roll and all this other crap. And you get like little small like 1 and 2 XP for doing it. But it was cool. Like it was like, yeah, for sure. You would, get so good at it that you get bored probably of just swinging. You do some more like jumping off the light pole or like ricocheting off the ground or running up a wall and then like flying right over it. Like it was just so well done, I think. And Batman made you feel like Batman as you traveled through the city. This world made you feel like Spider-Man as you swung through New York. What do you think about the navigation of it all?
I thought they did an incredible job. Like every time I play this Spider-Man, I'm always reminded of I can't remember which Spider-Man game it was, but on like the early PS2 days. And I just remember the web slinging made no sense because you didn't have to have anything for the webs to swing on. It would just go straight up and then like off screen. So I remember I'd always swing as high as I could, and there's nothing above me, but I'm still web swinging.
You're just swinging off the pigeons, man.
So like I liked it because like it followed physics to the sense of like something has to be there and like for you to grab hold of, and like the actual speed of your swings and like how far you could launch yourself because of it. Like I loved it. I liked to see how fast I could get going, and then I would swing towards the top of a building where like I was pretty close to it when I webbed it again. So like my web is only like maybe 20 feet long. And since I'm right there, use that short one to then just like swing and launch me off that building just to see how far I could throw myself.
It made it feel like you had so much more control over what you're doing. I agree. Yeah, that was a really good point.
Obviously, there were a couple hangups here and there where like, you kind of stumble over something, or they did a great job of like the fire escapes, for instance, kind of parkouring your way through there. But like every now and again, you kind of get hung up, like the flow stopped, and you'll have that. There's nothing you can do to stop that realistically, but all of that considered, they should be proud of themselves for what they put out.
Yeah, absolutely. So next up, Sidekicks and Stealth. When you weren't playing as Spider-Man, you were either landlocked as either Peter, Miles, or MJ, which was pretty much all stealth-based, or at least just walking. And for me, that was the slowest part of the game, playing as Miles and MJ. Even with MJ and Spider-Man interacting, it just wasn't like the same amount of fun as I was having with the rest of the game. But like for the most part, anytime I wasn't Spider-Man, I was miserable. It was just boring, and I just wish they would have done more to just make it more like compelling to be them. Like, what did you think of that?
So I know one of our biggest divides on our interest in games is like, I love stealth, you hate stealth.
I do.
That's really very apparent at any time we play Breakpoint. Anyways. I like stealth-based games and objectives and all that stuff, but I would agree in this instance that in those scenarios in Spider-Man, it was okay, but it wasn't great. It just it was, I don't know, it was hard to get into, and I think that's the hang-up. Like there's a couple things with Spider-Man where you have to be stealthy, and those I love doing, but like the stealth landlocked as any of the non-Spider-Man characters was just very slow and sluggish and took forever.
Yeah, because there's like one where you're in a bank. There's one where you're in like this kind of just like one of the Kingpin's old, not museums or I don't know, apartments. I don't know what the hell she's doing, but she's just sneaking around it. And I'm like, this is so boring. I just don't care. Like, get me back to being Spider-Man. And it wasn't like It's almost like they were trying to give you like a palate cleanser to remember how boring it was to not be Spider-Man. So when you were back as Spider-Man, you're like, oh god, this game is so great. But it was just so painful to go through.
You know what, man?
If
if that's the case, well done for them.
Oh,
it
absolutely.
Worked. I will say the one side mission where you're playing as Miles and you were trying to not be found by Rhino, that one was fun just because it was very suspenseful.
Yeah.
But that was about the only fun one.
But that was the thing. The only thing that made it so interesting was that, like, at any point, a giant, like, rhino horn would, like, blast down or whatever else. So, but still, you know, you're just sneaking around all these little floor grates that are very clean and very rodent-free. So
I'm calling BS.
All right, anyway, so let's get into Deep Impact, where we break down how people felt about everything. Why don't we start with the top positive review of Spider-Man?
All right, top positive review comes to us from Game Informer, who gave it a 9.5 out of 10.
Nice.
The review states, quote, like Batman Arkham Asylum before it, Spider-Man raises the bar for one of the world's most beloved heroes. I would agree with that. Also said the open world superhero experience excels at city traversal, storytelling, and the pursuit of power. I would agree with that. Also said that the soundtrack was epic, catchy, and the controls immediately empower you with the belief that you can do practically anything as Spider-Man. I would agree with all 3 points of this review. All right, top negative review is all yours. Have fun.
Oh, I shall. So our top negative review comes from a brave wanderer of the internet, only known as Shiffy Man, who states,
Great name.
Quote, typical open world game. Sure, it looks great and plays smooth, but there's absolutely nothing new here. The same old tired formula, yet the gaming drones of this generation lap this trash up like the programmed sheeple they are.
Jesus Christ.
Just look at that. Just look at true open world RPGs like Original Sin 2 that gets hardly any credit and shows you just how much the industry is nothing more than cash for comments. Spider-Man is just another washed up, old, tired, boring genre of gaming. End quote. So what do you think? Do you agree with Mr. Shiffy Man or Shiffy person?
No. First and foremost, this sounds like a dude who's just a hardcore Original Sin 2 fan, and he's just taking an opportunity to A, pitch that this game exists, and B, trash anything that's not it. At least, I mean, that's how it comes across to me. I've never played the Original Sin games, so
gaming drones and program sheeple. So like this guy or gal, because who knows what Shiffy Man means. It's an unnecessary slight at both. Like, what are you doing? Why do you hate this game so much that you're going after the people who just enjoyed playing the game? I'll never understand people getting mad that people like a game. It just doesn't make sense in my brain.
I just hate the start of this where it's sure it looks great and plays smooth. Like, so you're mad because they didn't try to reinvent the wheel? Like, I don't understand what you're mad about. I don't understand the whole there's nothing new here. Like, there's an entire new story. For starters, there's an entire new Spider-Man.
And it's really fun to play. And so it's like,
blast.
If you like a game and you had fun playing it, by default, isn't that a good game? I would say probably, you know?
Yeah, man.
Haters gonna hate. Ain'ters gonna ain't, as they say in the streets.
I don't think anyone says that, but okay.
Now, before we move on to what we thought about it, I want to keep the conversation about reviews going for a second because we need to talk about the reviews and this whole DLC crisis that we had, I think, a couple weeks into the launch of Spider-Man. And so this next section is actually kind of important for all of us as gamers. And so, you know, definitely really think about what happened, what your role in it might have been, and what we need to do better in the future as far as just fans of video games. So right now, Marvel's Spider-Man is sitting at a Metacritic score of 87 out of 116 critic reviews. Pretty much everything I read about this game at launch was positive, but since we love to destroy the things we enjoy, that tidal wave of positive energy was due to collapse with 3 simple letters, DLC. Bryar, do you want to kick this off? I'm calling this whole thing the Great Toby Maguire Fire of 2019.
That's an amazing name.
Thank you. I'm really excited about it as well because this is what is the most infuriating thing about the gaming community. So let's go.
So when we eventually create our own album, I want that to be the title. Or when we go on tour, I want our tour to be called The Great
Toby Maguire Fire Tour.
Oh, God.
It's going to really confuse us on an SEO standpoint, but I'm here for it regardless. So,
we'll cross that bridge when the time comes.
For sure.
But anyways, so to cover our base, DLC is downloadable content, just so we're all on the same page. So it's additional content you get for a game that you have to purchase. Sometimes they give it away for free, not often. It's typically you buy it. It's content that wasn't on the disc at launch. Should have been on the disc at launch, and you have to download it. It's not science at all. Anyways, Spider-Man has a ton of suits that you can unlock just for playing the game. Like, it is just throwing suit after suit at you, and it's awesome. And you can get a lot more of extra suits through extra DLC packs that they release. I think they've put out 3 of them so far. Well, 3 packs. Where normally it'd be just cool as a fan, to sit back and enjoy these digital offerings, as we're going to call them. The internet felt slighted that one spider suit in particular was missing from Peter Parker's closet, and that is the Toby Maguire suit from the Sam Raimi Spider-Man flicks of the early 2000s.
Which, those were great, by the way. I mean, that was really my, reintroduction into the Spider-Verse. Those came out when I was, in high school, I think. And I loved them. I was all for it. So,
for sure.
Real quick, what was your favorite suit to wear, outside of, your normal, as you progress through the story, they give you, a couple different versions. What was your favorite one? Either, from the original one or, a DLC one?
I have 3 that I like to rotate through. The first one is actually a DLC suit. They refer to it as the upgraded suit. It's the suit Peter Parker in the most recent Spider-Man film, was it Far From Home? Mm-hmm. The last suit he wears, the red and black one at the end, right as he's taking out Mysterio and all that, it's that suit.
Yeah, nice.
So, loved that one. I wear that one a lot. I also rotate between that and the Last Stand suit, which is just a pretty plain mask and then this dope red leather jacket with a black spider emblem on it, and
black jeans, right?
Yeah, black
jeans,
I like that one. And biker
cool.
boots.
For sure, I like that one too.
Yeah. There was one part in the story where shit hit the fan and you have to go around and kind of just knock out all those the gang hideout location things, you know. And I wore that the entire time. It felt appropriate.
Nice.
And then lastly, the Spider Armor MK or Mark III.
Right, and hell yeah, because that was my favorite one. That was my go-to. That one for me had a practical armor set. It just looked great, and then there was kind of flexibility to it. It wasn't overdone like the Iron Spider suit was and some of the other ones. But I loved it. I thought for sure that was my go-to the second I unlocked it.
For sure.
But yeah, it was very cool. That one was my favorite as well. My main favorite of the other ones. I think when Iron Spider came out, I just watched Infinity War again, and so I threw that on, and the suit power that goes along with it, or those iron arms, and that was cool as shit just to see it all work together. So the important takeaway here is that there are more than enough options for you to find your favorite suit. But even with all of your options and powers and gadgets and abilities, let's get back to the Tobey Maguire fire of 2019.
People started demanding the Sam Raimi suit. Which, I mean, it's fine, you want the suit, okay. The demands quickly turned to harassment of some of Insomniac's leadership team and the development staff via trending hashtag Raimi Army. It turns into kind of an over-the-top cringe fest of people thinking they can just rally and throw a big enough tantrum and then Insomniac will just give them their way.
Yeah, but they got the DLC, so didn't all of their whining and pissing and moaning, help them? I mean, didn't they win?
Not even a little bit. And here's why. So DLC takes months to develop. It's not just hey, some developer got an idea, threw it in the game, done. It takes months. You have to design it. You have to do all the shading of the elements. You have to link it up with your game engine. You have to tell the game engine that it's there. That if some asshole selects the Xbox, you got to throw on this suit, and it takes months of development, of programming, of artwork, of all of this stuff.
So are you saying then, Bryar, that the DLC was in development long before the internet threw a tantrum about that DLC?
That is exactly what I'm saying.
Great job, you guys. Way to go.
They were fit for nothing.
There was also a short internet scuffle over, and get this, the size of the puddles and the final version of the game versus the demo released at E3. You can see side-by-side images today, and it's clear that the demo version is a super high-res image of everything, and the final version is a screen cap. It's nowhere near that. So several people spoke up on behalf of Insomniac saying they'd seen the demo source code and the final build source code, and there was no loss of quality whatsoever. Others swore up and down that they were getting gypped. I personally think that the demo you saw was just a super splashy proof of concept, and then you got to build the rest of your game to support your demo. And the game was absolutely amazing, and like everything that we just talked about was incredible, and the reception was great. So like, are you really gonna flip the fuck out about puddles, you guys? Like, I just don't understand it. You get something that's so great, it's so fun, it's so well done, and you can't just be happy about it. I just don't understand it. I get being furious when something is not working or it's super, like it needs huge patches for day one because you know they shipped off a half-baked game. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with you rallying when something isn't done right. But this isn't that. This is you just freaking out over like DLC that you had no right to, you know, in the first place, and then flipping out over a demo version and just thinking that you were lied to. We've been lied to before. Like No Man's Sky is a really good testament of like what it was advertised as versus what we received, and I'm totally okay with how much people flipped out over that game. But it's, you know, that game specifically has done a lot to try to like mend fences and kind of regain trust and all that stuff.
For sure.
And that just wasn't anything like what people experienced with, you know, Spider-Man and the Insomniac team. So
it was stupid. I mean, why throw that big of a fit over a puddle? I don't care about a puddle on the ground. Now, if, like, you know, the Spider-Man model, the suit and everything in general, like, went from looking what, you know, it does now to, like, when the game launched, like, it looked like a cartoon. Yeah, okay, fair. Be upset all day long. But it is a puddle.
Yeah.
Who cares?
And long story short, even if you're not happy with something, does that give you the right to send out death threats and tell,
No.
you know, contact developers and tell them that you're going to kill them if they don't do this? Like, I just think the anonymity of the internet is giving a lot of people that don't really deserve to be able to talk openly in public the ability to open up in public. And yeah, freedom of speech is great, but if you're going to use it to go after people for the most trivial of reasons, I just think you should really take a look at yourself and like what you've been doing and whether or not it's the best thing for the community overall. So anyway, enough about that shit. What about us, Bryar? What'd you think about it?
I remember seeing trailers for it while we were working at the stop, right around E3 time, just nonstop, you know, info, news. We had that one trailer playing on loop 24/7 behind the cash wrap on the TV there. And the trailer alone got me excited for it. So, I mean, I was pumped. I thought it looked, you know, pretty dope, pretty cool. Storyline, the little peaks of the story that they gave you through the trailer were pretty solid. So, I was pumped for it just, you know, from E3.
What'd you think once you got it?
Oh, I loved it. It was a killer game. Like I said before, I've platinumed the game just because I, you know, enjoyed playing it so much. I mean, to be fair though, platinuming Spider-Man wasn't super difficult.
I agree. I think there were a couple grindy parts maybe, but like I think this is a game that I would constantly see people jump out and say like, hey, I got the platinum. So you typically don't see, like with The Last of Us, there's only a handful of people that have already gotten that platinum. It's a pretty deep game. Oh yeah.
I can't imagine. It's been out for what, a couple weeks now?
Maybe 2 weeks. I don't even know if it's been 2 weeks.
I couldn't imagine having that, like, and this isn't like a dig against those people. This is just me acknowledging like my schedule. I couldn't imagine having enough time to actually like go and platinum that 2 weeks in.
Right, and that's the thing is, hey, if you got the time, take the time for sure.
Oh, for sure.
We just don't. So, you know, we do what we can. We like, you know, today we're recording this when we had some extra time in the afternoon. Typically, we're recording the evenings after the kids are asleep. Mm-hmm. So it really just depends on what you got time for. And I just don't have time to, you know, I'm trying to get through the story, but like as far as platinuming it, if I do that, it'll be later on.
So yeah. So all that being said, how did you experience Spider-Man?
I think we all saw it at E3 in 2016, and we were all stoked that it was Insomniac. The game looked incredible. It just so happened to be a PlayStation exclusive, which, you know, we're PlayStation guys for sure. I know you have Xbox stuff, but I think we spend more time on that console. So anytime that happens, I get really excited about it. And it was just cool. It was just cool that it worked out. And then once that I got it, I absolutely loved it. It was one of the most fun gaming experiences that I had. And that's the big contrast between that game and like a game like The Last of Us is like, The Last of Us, like, it's got some cool stuff going for it, but it's not like a fun ride. It's like a painful ride. Spider-Man, conversely, is just like you start it and you just start smiling from the way that the music is playing and you're swinging around and you're jumping and the dialogue and stuff. Like it's just a fun experience. It's sad moments for sure, but it's so much fun.
For sure.
And so like Insomniac did to Spider-Man what Rocksteady did to Batman. They broke down the elements of what made it fun to be that character, and they gave that power to the players, and it was so great.
It really was. Let's keep this ball rolling, and we'll head into there and back again.
Sounds good. Do you mind if I take the synopsis?
By all means.
All right. 8 years in his superhero career,
Jesus
Peter
Christ,
has
so
become
much regrets.
an experienced crime fighter, but struggles to balance his superhero and personal lives. Peter is assisted by Daily Bugle reporter Mary Jane Watson, who also in this universe happens to be his ex-girlfriend. Peter is assisted by NYPD Captain Yuri Watanabe, who I love, and when he's not Supermaning, he volunteers with Aunt May at the Feast homeless shelter and is a research assistant to Dr. Otto Octavius. Let's dive into Chapter 1, Rhythm and Blues.
All right, so Chapter 1, Rhythm and Blues. As mentioned in the synopsis, this game takes us to a version of Peter Parker that is almost a decade into his career. We open on a slow panning shot of his crappy New York apartment, which is pretty par for the course for Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
We see newspaper clippings of the Rhinos, the Scorpion, and a few other members of the Sinister Six crew. Tokens of previous cases Parker has closed during his time as Spider-Man. It's clear that this version isn't bankrolled by Tony Stark or anyone else for that matter. He's hella broke. We see pieces of tech and random prototypes all over, but this is a version of Spider-Man that is in the trenches, so to speak. He's eating it, he's sleeping it. This is ruling his life, but it's all let him here.
Because we're finally going after the Kingpin himself.
Oh, yeah.
That's right, folks. Insomniac drops you in the thick of the action, and you have to take over mid-web sling as you head to where Wilson Fisk is hiding. Yuri Watanabe, the captain for the New York Police Department, could use your help. You learn how to handle the combat mechanics of Spider-Man while you work your way up, one floor at a time, through waves of henchmen. They've got guns, they've got rockets, but we're Spider-Man.
So after some brief monologuing, we effectively ride Fisk down to the first floor, crashing through a whole bunch of glass in various floors as we deliver him to the police. As he's being carted off to the Raft prison, he taunts, saying that we'll miss him when all the criminals that were previously kept in check by him start coming out to wage war on the city.
Oh, damn. So do you think we made the right call in locking Fisk up?
I don't think we made the wrong call in locking Fisk up, but I mean, there's going to be a lot of shit on our plate now, because he's not wrong. He's the main crime guy, and now he's not there. There's
Kingpin.
Oh my God.
What?
You think that's why they called him that?
Well, regardless of what we thought, new criminal elements are starting to pop up in the city. A gang called the Inner Demons becomes interested in some artifacts that the Kingpin owns. They seek something called the Devil's Breath for something probably bad.
Most likely.
Demons attack, but with the help of an NYPD officer named Jefferson Davis, Spider-Man wins the day.
Oh, yeah. This event is a big deal for the city, and it's here that we're introduced to this game's version of Norman Osborn. He's seeking re-election as mayor and is going to use Officer Davis as a way for him to boost voter awareness. Mm-hmm. It's here that demons attack again, shocking to know, and unfortunately Davis dies in the conflict, and a bunch of the event attendees also perish. It was not a cool time. It was pretty rough. Spider-Man sees Martin Lee, a man he knows from the work his Aunt May does with him at the Feast homeless shelter, turn into Mr. Negative, which is fun.
Dun, dun, dun.
Peter's knocked out during this whole event because there's a pretty hella big explosion.
Yeah.
So he, as Spider-Man, can't really intervene. And unfortunately that, shit goes sideways. And that leads us into Chapter 2, the Sinister Six.
Wanting to show strength to his voter base, Norman hires the private security company Sable International to beef up security around the city and help lessen the demon presence throughout the city. Peter also befriends a young man named Miles, Davis' son, and persuades him to volunteer at Feast to help give him some kind of purpose. Because he's really bummed out, obviously, that his dad just died. He's dealing with a lot of stuff. I mean, it's a really, tough time in a young man's life.
All right, so we learned that Peter Parker's day job is assisting Dr. Otto Octavius in the research for prosthetic limbs. The funding is spotty, as Osborn wants Doc Ock to come work at Oscorp with him. He keeps messing with him to encourage him to move over, which a wrong way to go about it.
For sure.
It seems kind of bass-ackwards, but whatever. Doc Ock is refusing because he doesn't want to work for an organization that he knows is evil. Turns out that the Devil's Breath, the stuff that was created by Oscorp by accident while developing a cure for genetic diseases. A power struggle takes place between Lee and Osborn, but Spider-Man and Mary Jane team up to take Lee down.
Doc Ock then starts to lose control. We learn that he's suffering from a neuromuscular disease that will one day render him completely immobile. By him linking his mind to these prosthetic limbs, he can maintain his own life and independence. And honestly, I totally get where he's coming from. That would suck. And even like the purpose of his, work is to help veterans that have lost their limbs in combat. So everything that he's trying to do, like, it's not a bad thing that he's trying to do it. It's just like anything, you can take something that's good and you can really twist it and make it turn into a really bad thing. It would suck to have that problem, but to know that you also have the ability to keep going if you can only figure out this one last piece of tech. I'd probably never sleep, and it probably would drive me crazy to try to figure out how to save my limbs and not just be a vegetable in a bed.
For sure. I mean, the thought of being a prisoner in your own body is absolutely terrifying.
Yeah, man.
And knowing that you're smart enough to get all this hammered out, you just need the funding. The only thing standing between you and nailing this is, funding from this asshole over here is just maddening.
Yeah.
But anyways, all that to say, there's a report of a massive breakout, and it seems that, the last 8 years of Peter Parker's life were just undone. Scorpion, Vulture, Rhino, Electro, Lee, all of them have been let out of prison and proceed to beat the absolute piss out of Spider-Man. It is a beating unlike anything I've ever seen in a game in recent memory, and it was rough to watch. We finally get to here. It's where we finally get to meet the official Dr. Octopus, where Parker had been designing gear for Spider-Man in secret. Doc Ock accepted the money of villains just so he didn't have to work for Norman Osborn.
It's really dark, and it sucks because earlier there's a point where like Doc Ock sneaks in and sees Peter trying to like repair a suit and is totally cool with it. And, I get it, like you make it stop. And so it even seemed like a cool moment earlier on in the game that like Doc Ock would be a cool kind of ally. And then for it to turn this way, like it was really sad, it was really unfortunate, but it was very well done. And so Doc Ock heads to Times Square and releases a Devil's Breath bioagent. Hundreds of people are instantly infected, including Aunt May. New York starts to tear itself apart while the Sinister Six smash up the city in their own unique ways. Osborn declares martial law and blames Spider-Man for the incident. He's now officially a fugitive.
Yeah, man. Everyone needs a fall guy.
Yeah, man.
So as Spider-Man works to take back the city, Mary Jane sneaks into the Osborn penthouse to learn the history of Devil's Breath. Turns out that their friend Harry Osborn had a terminal illness that they didn't know about. As a child, Lee was tested for a kind of cure that instead gave him the power of negative energy, hence, Mr. Negative. Mm-hmm. And as he was unable to control it at the time, an accidental pulse of energy caused his parents' death, and thus began Lee's hatred for Osborn.
Lee escapes with the antidote to Devil's Breath, but Doc Ock shows up, beats everyone's ass, and takes the antidote, and then leaves. Miles, while helping at Feast, gets bit by a radioactive spider that rode on Mary Jane's jacket from that Oscorp penthouse lab, which was pretty cool because the entire time it was did you watch Into the Spider-Verse and saw how much time it took that spider to get to Miles?
Yes.
It was infuriating. Oh my God, bite this kid. If you don't bite this kid, I'm gonna bite this kid. What is the hold up here? And so
about to dump a whole bucket of spiders on this kid.
I don't get it, man. And then at the end of it, he just smacks his hand real quick. So this is kind of a similar thing where we get to see the whole journey of the spider getting to Miles to bite him. It's pretty cool.
I was pumped for it because Miles as Spider-Man's Miles in general, and then obviously him as Spider-Man is one of my favorite Spider-Man characters in general. So
for sure,
I was pumped when he got bit.
So that leads us into Chapter 3. Heavy is the webhead.
Parker builds a special suit that is equipped to handle Dr. Octopus. I don't know why.
It's because you don't like saying the word puss. I get it.
No, it's just he's always referred to as Doc Ock. Anyways, build a special suit to handle him. It's revealed that the good doctor knew that Parker was Spider-Man the whole time. Crazy. But, the two fight because you got to have that sweet, sweet boss battle. Spider-Man, of course, comes out on top but unfortunately has a small amount of the antidote now. Due to lack of time and the severity of Devil's Breath symptoms, Parker has to make the decision to either save his Aunt May, and by doing so let the other infected people die, or use that last little bit of cure he has to replicate it into a large batch of the cure and save everyone, but Aunt May will die. He reluctantly does the superhero thing and chooses to save everyone, but before May dies, she reveals that she has known that Peter was Spider-Man for some time now, and that she has been proud of him and the man he grew up to be.
And that moment was where the game went from great to amazing. The gameplay, the combat, the style, it all worked great. But here's where the Insomniac team reminded me how much they could take a great story, a cast of characters, and make me care about them. Up to this point, Aunt May had been cool, helpful, grounded, strong, uplifting, but then here we go. Now we got to make some superhero decisions, and like, holy crap! Like the weight of it, even like Parker's like frustration in that moment, like it was very well acted and executed. What'd you think about all that?
It was the hardest decision that I didn't have to make, because the game doesn't let you. Obviously you do the superhero decision of the option with the to do the greater good, which in this turn is saving all these people. But at the same time, that is Aunt May, damn it. That is the last family member you have, the last bit of unwavering support. And she's going to die right in front of you. I mean, the only comfort in all of that was May telling you how proud she is. And then, telling you, do the right thing, save the city. Deuces, I'm out. And then exhales last breath. Mic drop.
It's just very well done. I mean, we've seen countless versions of Aunt May in several different mediums. And so for them to, obviously we didn't get Uncle Ben in this in any way, shape, or form, but then we just had this version of May doing her thing. And so it was earlier in the game, there's like a point where she just leaves you some money for rent or whatever, which is cool. But then here, like, they really nail it. The writers and the developers should all be commended for executing such a powerful moment in such a beautiful way, woven into this really fun, awesome gaming experience. Like, it was just really, really impressive. We close the story out 3 months later. New York is back to hustling and bustling with the best of them. Peter and MJ are rekindling their previously strained relationship. Miles and Peter reveal their spider powers to one another, and it's clear that more mentoring will take place in future games. That was really anchored recently with the new Spider-Man Miles Morales PS5 exclusive game.
So excited.
So excited.
Before the game closes, we switch to Norman Osborn as he enters his secret laboratory on his, in his penthouse or whatever. Harry is in a stasis chamber, suspended by cables and being fed oxygen, loosely wrapped around his body, and the cables are all these black, stringy, tentacle-looking webs. And I'm just saying, they look an awful lot like a symbiote to me. Just saying.
And Norman is standing there saying he's got to find a cure. He's gotta. He presses his hand against the tank and lowers his head in frustration. A tentacle from inside the tank presses up against the glass opposite of Norman's hand, and thus concludes Marvel's Spider-Man. So first off, do you think the tentacle is set up the Hobgoblin, or do you think they're going to give the Venom symbiote to Harry and then work in Brock later on? Like, what do you think they're going to do with Venom, if that is what they're doing?
I think they are going to do Venom. I mean, it's kind of hard to show that scene and not go the Venom route. Yeah. It makes the most sense to me. How they do that, I don't know. I don't necessarily know that I want them to go the Harry to Brock. I know it's not the right character, but it's their game. They can do whatever they want. But, I mean, if they went that route, they could almost do, like, an anti-Venom and Venom bit.
Yeah.
That'd be kind of cool. I don't know. I want Venom to be in the next actual, like, Spider-Man titled game for sure. I just don't know how I want them to do it.
And I say just as well, like, let Insomniac just ungate their creativity. Let's get Venom in here.
For sure.
Let's introduce some of the other heroes, like the Human Torch, Daredevil, Blade. I'm going to try to get Blade into new games. I'm just going to not stop talking about it until I will it into existence. But enough about that. Here we go. What would we do if we could retcon Marvel's Spider-Man? What would we change? How would we change it? Why would we change it? Bryar, go for it.
Okay, so right out the gate, first of all, right up top here, let's let Aunt May live.
That's all he's got, man.
That's all he's got. Peter Parker has been through so much and lost so much. Can we let him keep Aunt May just a little longer? I mean, I understand the significance of her death and like what it did for the story for Peter, how it really, grounded him, and I don't know, man. They could have found a way to let her live and still got a similar, reaction for the story out of him.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Maybe like let her just. She's a tough old girl. Maybe just she fights off Devil's Breath on her own.
Turns out she's a superhero too. She just never talked about it. You look over
she
and
has a healing factor. No one knows.
She's just beating the piss out of Doc Ock by herself, and you're like, whoa, May.
She's got him in just like a one-arm chokehold, just choking the life out of him.
She's just screaming, "Hey, can you pull that roast out of the oven? It's gonna burn. I'll be with you in a second." I'd be down. Let's retcon all of Aunt May's characters.
Fuck yeah. Well, it's like her character in Into the Spider-Verse, where that whole brawl takes place in her living room and she just starts swinging a bat. Like, hell yeah, man, let's get in there.
I said take it outside. Smash. Yeah, it's good.
It's great.
It's great.
But anyways, to keep us on track, second of all, let Miles be in there a little heavier. I mean, I understand he was more just like a teaser for a later segment that they're going to do, because, they're coming out with the Miles Morales game, which I am here for. But, like, you name dropped him, you put him in there, you showed me he had spider powers. He doesn't even have to be in, like, the main story of the game. Like, you've done 3 DLC packs. You can't give me, like, maybe another one where I kind of just, or at least even just get the suit.
And I wonder if that's where it started, because, what do they call it? Like, the City That Never Sleeps DLC? Like, the DLC was, like, titled. And so it's almost like they were working on a 4th DLC one just on Miles, and they're like, well, fuck this game is awesome, let's just make this a standalone PlayStation 5 launch title, and let's really just go all in. And that's what it feels like. So,
and if that's the case, I'm cool with that.
Yeah, it makes sense. That sounds like a very smart use of your resources. We already bought the game was a huge success on the platform. Go ahead and do something else, set up the next one. Why not? But
for the record though, isn't Miles Morales game, isn't that also going to be on PS4? I thought it was.
I think the Miles version is only going to be on the 5.
That bums me out. I mean, I'll get the 5 eventually, but I really want to play that.
Yeah, I agree.
Really bad. But any hoozles. So, again, keeping us on track here. Devon, what would you retcon?
Well, I would remove Screwball from the game entirely. She's honestly the most irritating character I think I've ever seen and heard, and it's just every time I had to do something on behalf of her, I hated it. Like, it gave us more stuff to do and pitched the concept of, like, somebody really hungry for social media attention and, like, how they would stream these matches. And I get it. Like, I get the motivations and, like, all that other stuff. I just hated the character in every instance I saw that character. And I would just be very excited to never have to deal with that character ever again.
I want to add that to my retcon too. That can be my third point, because like I'm going through her challenges right now, trying to 100% the DLC, and God, I hate them. It's painful. I hate listening to her talk.
Yeah, and every time she starts talking about anything, I just hate it. But you know what? Whatever. It is what it is. Now, the second thing I initially wrote was all about wanting more Peter Parker and Miles Morales time together, but then there was an entire announcement about Miles, getting his own game on the PlayStation 5. So instead of writing what I'd change, for the story, I'd actually instead rather talk about what I'd like to see in that standalone game. Cool?
Go for it, man.
So I want to spend the first couple of chapters playing through Miles' training period. I don't think you go from 0 to super suit. I think I want to start with like some jeans and hoodies, some like nighttime training, trying to have Peter explain to Miles like how to use his powers, how to use his agility. And I want to see Miles slipping off walls, missing his marks when he's trying to web swing through the city, doing some early combat training, trying to control his strength and practice using gadgets, accidentally, webbing himself to the wall, or, trying to, hit a guy and like maybe really hurting him on accident and trying to figure out exactly how hard or soft he has to punch somebody. I really want to see some mentorship of Peter and Miles. Into the Spider-Verse was phenomenal for so many reasons, but my favorite part was the relational aspect between Peter B. Parker and Miles. Like, I think that's the strongest part of that entire movie. And I think that this might be the only time we get to play that out and kind of see that situation, and I'm really, really here for it. Plus, I've got What's Up Danger saved on Spotify, so anytime I play Spider-Man now, I kind of put that song on, and I need to see that original Into the Spider-Verse like suit. Not just the one where he's only wearing a suit, but where he's got like the sneakers on and his hoodie on. Like, that's the coolest version of Miles I think that I've ever seen. And I think the first Spider-Man game is really just a demonstration overall of like how much like DLC stuff you can put into a game. I don't know if Insomniac's ever going to do DLC suits again, because I feel like they got burned so bad that first time. But if they do, and if they do with this 5th one, I would like to see that, like that specific Miles Morales suit. aside of just like the Miles Morales sequel, why don't we quickly talk about the Spider-Man proper sequel, what we'll actually see, probably a year or two down the road on PlayStation 5. For me, I'd like to see Norman go full dark mode Hobgoblin. He's been behind the curtain for the most part the entire game. I mean, we saw that one interaction when he was doing the presentation for Jefferson Davis. We saw that other interaction with him and Doc Ock. But I want to see, this character get developed. I want to see his descents, and if, maybe he becomes more of a Kingpin type than like a supervillain type. But I'd like to see what happens with that. I'd also want to see way more variety of villains overall. Game 1 gave us everything we were expecting, so let's ditch the main villains and let's, let Insomniacs flex their muscles a little bit. Craven is an awesome character. This new thing they're doing with Harry, there's so much that they can do. Craven. I would just like them to go a little non-traditional. We still haven't seen Mysterio. There's a lot of other stuff that we're missing out on that I think we could use. And then recently, with all the announcements about the Marvel's Avengers game, I'm super curious to hear whether or not they're going to try to do some kind of Marvel video game universe like they did with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. All these movies kind of lived on their own, but then they kind of crossed over. I don't see why they couldn't do something like that with this game, especially with the way they're talking about like these standalone hero missions. I don't see why they couldn't have something take place in San Francisco where, Peter Parker or Miles Morales shows up. And I don't see why, conversely, there's not something that takes them into New York and they end up meeting, Peter Parker or Miles Morales in New York when they're like, hey, what the hell are you guys doing here? And maybe that's where we get to see the Avengers and Spider-Man, that dynamic start to take shape. So I think there's a lot of potential there. I'm here for it. I just really like to see them take some interesting swings and stuff. I think Spider-Man overall was pretty safe but well executed. Now let's take your build and let's have you see what you can do with it. What about you? What do you think they would do with the sequel?
I agree that I would love to see Norman go full dark mode. Like I want to see him a legit villain. He's been scheming. You find out he's had a hand in a lot of stuff, like the Devil's Breath and everything. Let him be a villain. Let him be a legit villain that I get to punch in the face. And then give me like a dedicated Sinister Six.
This is my favorite to order at restaurants.
Sinister Six. Oh, they're so good. But give me like a legit Sinister Six conflict. Like let a portion of or the story be me dealing with them. Like, I mean, I know your route's going like let's get away from the main villains, but I kind of want to go with like the main villains, and then like third game, God willing, there's a third game. Then we can kind of just go out into the secondary villains.
Well, like even like the Scorpion and Rhino, like they didn't really have their own kind of segment. Yeah, we fought them, but we don't really know.
They were there, but they were just there.
So I agree. You could probably take some extra time to unpack them each in the sequel. I just hope, like, Screwball I don't care about anymore. We got way too much time with her, but like, maybe not that one, but try again with not her ever again, And
then, to kind of go off that, like when we get into like side characters and whatnot, like was it Homecoming?
Yeah.
Homecoming. You have Vulture in it. So, really actually like legit toss him into a Spider-Man game, or give me Morbius. Honestly, that would be kind of cool too.
And then you can tee in Blade. I'm here for it. Yeah, let's get
there. You go. Let's get Morbius into the next game, and he can be your segue to Blade.
Yeah, because as you're fighting him, he kicks your ass or whatever else, and then like Blade shows up and bails you out, and then you've got some awesome dialogue.
I'm on board for it.
All right. Well, any other thoughts before we shut her down, Bryar? We've been at this for a while.
Last thought. I'm embarrassed to acknowledge the fact we didn't mention Stan Lee's cameo in this game at all. There's 2 or 3 different instances where Peter and MJ are sitting down in a restaurant at a booth talking to each other. And like the first time, Peter has to leave because crime is afoot. And you hear Stan Lee's voice and the camera pans over and he's like the restaurant owner talking about how much he likes the two of you as a couple. And then I think at the end of the game, same scenario where Peter has to dip out, and he makes, if I remember correctly, he makes a comment of like he's glad to see you guys working it out or something like that. But yeah, it was cool to see Stan Lee cameo in a video game. I was very happy about that.
He's been in a couple. I don't know if he's been in all of them, but he's probably been in all of them. Do you think that the movies?
I can't think of any other ones that he was in, but
I think in most of the like the last Spider-Man game I played, like the Amazing Spider-Man 2 or something like that, he was like the owner of a comic book shop, and he's done like voiceover stuff. I never
played any of those.
Oh yeah, so. if you played any of the other Spider-Man games, he's always worked in it in one way or the other. Like Bruce Campbell and like Stan Lee are in all the Spider-Man games in one form or another, which is amazing.
Yeah, as it should be.
But I do hope that they try to do a nod to him in one fashion or another going forward, because I know that they can't, it sucks that he's gone, but they can honor him in one way or another,
Also, one last thing too. It was a cool little sentimental thing you could do, but the scene where in the game where you bury Miles' dad, there's a very emotional funeral service and everything. While you're in the cemetery there, it's in like the back of it. You can actually go and find Uncle Ben's grave and interact with it and like say a couple things.
Yeah, I think it's like a landmark or something.
Yeah, if you take a picture of it, it's a landmark which you also need to get to platinum it. But I thought that was a cool little thing they tossed in there.
Yeah, I think so too.
All in all, awesome game.
Very awesome game.
For sure.
Well, enough about that. Let's put this baby to bed, shall we? Brylander.
We shall.
Thank you for hanging out with me today. Folks, thank you for listening to Bryar and I break down Spider-Man on PlayStation 4. If you're into it, you're welcome to support us on Facebook, Twitter, and or wherever you get your sweet, sweet delivery of your audio goods. If you want to find us on Twitter, we're at Retcon Air. If you want to find us on Facebook, it's like Facebook/Retcon Air or something like that. Hopefully you're hearing this somewhere, and wherever you're listening to it, if that has some kind of ranking system with stars or whatever, it would be great if you could give us some kind of positive feedback. We got a couple people on iTunes wrote some nice stuff about us, gave some good reviews. We're always looking for more because there's a lot of competition out there, and your kind words can be what make or break us. So thank you for listening to the show. We launch full episodes the 1st and 15th of each and every month. The Let's Plays, reactions, and stuff like that, those are all standalones. We make those whenever we want to make them. And there's a new segment coming out, or there's actually a new show coming out called Retcon Reads that Shelby's been working on, and I'm really, really excited for you to hear it. So that's it for us. We will see you next time on Retcon Air.
Bye.
There you go.